They called him a discoverer. Christopher Columbus, the man who found lands already lived in, loved in, and defended. His voyages are celebrated with parades and holidays, songs of discovery echoing through centuries, while the blood of the people he found still stains the soil. But history does not celebrate the defenders, those who stood against empire instead of sailing for it. In the heart of Jamaica's Blue Mountains, a woman rose who would defy that empire. A woman who would turn the jungle into a battlefield, the hills into fortresses, and her people into legends. Her name was Nanny of the Maroons. And while the world remembers conquerors, she was the one who conquered fear itself. The story of Nanny begins not in Jamaica, but in the horror of the Atlantic. Her ancestors were stolen from the Ashanti Kingdom of West Africa, a people of warriors, builders, and leaders. They were forged in a land of gold and tradition, where women ruled alongside men, where strategy was honored as much as strength. They were forced across the ocean, bound in chains, their bodies sold, their spirits meant to be broken. The Middle Passage was designed to erase identity, to strip away language, culture, and memory itself. But the spirit of the Ashanti cannot be owned. It carries no master's brand. It bows to no foreign crown. From the moment they arrived, enslaved Africans fled into the mountains, escaping the plantations, forming secret communities in the wild. They called themselves Maroons, from the Spanish cimarron, meaning wild or untamed. Among them, a woman emerged, wise in the ways of herbs, gifted with strategy, and fearless before muskets and masters alike. Her name was Nanny, and she vowed that no child of Africa would ever bow again. The British thought Jamaica belonged to them. On maps, they drew borders. In ledgers, they counted profits. In reality, the mountains belonged to Nanny. She and her brothers, Akampong, Johnny, Cudjoe, and Cuffy, led scattered groups of runaways, uniting them into disciplined, self-governing communities. At the heart of it all was Nanny Town, perched high in the Blue Mountains, hidden by mist and jungle, accessible only by those who knew the secret paths. There were farms where yams and cassava grew, blacksmiths who forged weapons from stolen British iron, lookouts stationed on cliffs that touched the clouds, and warriors trained in guerrilla warfare centuries before the word existed. She organized a network of spies along the coast, knew every British patrol route, understood the tides, the seasons, the rhythm of colonial cruelty. She turned the drum and A-beam, a cow horn trumpet, into tools of coded communication. One blast meant danger approaching. 2 meant victory. 3 meant come home. When the British marched, she knew. When they rested, she struck. When they celebrated their conquest, she planned their defeats. She fought not for vengeance, but for independence. Not to replace one empire with another, but to prove that freedom needed no permission. To fight the empire, Nanny used the land itself as her ally. The British had muskets and cannons. She had the mountains. They had uniforms and formations. She had invisibility. Her warriors struck from the shadows, then vanished into the forest like ghosts. They attacked supply lines, freed captives, liberated weapons, food and tools. Everything the British thought secure became fuel for resistance. They disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. They camouflaged themselves with leaves and mud, moving silently through bamboo and fern, their footsteps indistinguishable from the forest itself. When the redcoats advanced in straight lines, they were ambushed from above. Rocks, arrows, and bullets raining down from positions they never saw coming. Some British soldiers swore she could catch bullets with her hands. Others claimed she made them disappear with her words. Officers wrote frantic letters home, describing an enemy who couldn't be found, couldn't be fought, couldn't be broken. In truth, her power was strategy, the perfect blend of fear, timing, and terrain. She studied her enemies' weaknesses, their arrogance, their ignorance of the land, their dependence on rigid order. To the British, she was a phantom, a myth told around nervous campfires, a name whispered in warning. To her people, she was Mother Nanny, protector, provider, and prophet of freedom. Beyond her tactics, Nanny's strength came from her faith, a spiritual fire rooted in her Ashanti heritage. She was an Obeah woman, a spiritual leader, healer, and seer. She blended West African traditions with New World survival, using herbs to heal wounds that plantation medicine ignored, roots to cure fevers that the British called curses. She knew which plants brought sleep, which brought strength, which brought visions that revealed the enemy's next move. Before every battle, she would light a sacred fire, invoke the spirits of the ancestors, call upon those who crossed the ocean but never surrendered, and remind her warriors what they were fighting for.
We stand united in strength and spirit. Prepare for what comes.
Not revenge, but redemption. Not destruction, but dignity. The enslaved were fighting for more than land. They were fighting for memory, for the right to remember who they were before chains, before ships, before empire. She taught them their names still mattered, that their ancestors walked beside them in every battle. This was not superstition. This was survival. The British could not ignore her victories. She had embarrassed governors, bankrupted plantations, and turned Jamaica into a war zone they could not win. They sent troops, mercenaries, and bounty hunters, men driven by greed, fear, and the promise of glory. They burned Maroon villages, slaughtered captives, tortured prisoners for scraps of information, and declared total war on Nanny Town. But every time they thought they had crushed the rebellion, the jungle swallowed their army whole. The land itself became her ally. The mountains whispered warnings, the rivers hid her tracks, and the fog wrapped her warriors in silence. Soldiers went mad in the heat, supplies rotted in the rain. Entire battalions vanished into the green, never to return. Ghosts claimed by the forest they had desecrated. In 1734, British soldiers finally reached Nanny's stronghold, climbing for days through terrain that broke horses and men alike. They arrived exhausted, triumphant, only to find it abandoned. The fire still burning, food still warm, and the low echo of a horn rolling from the mountains above. Some say she fell that day, that bullets finally found her, that the empire claimed its prize. Others say she walked into the mist, her spirit rising with the smoke of her campfire, becoming part of the mountain itself, eternal, unbroken. Whatever the truth, the rebellion did not die. Her brothers carried on the fight, and by 1739, the British were forced to sign a peace treaty granting the Maroons autonomy and freedom. It was the first time the empire bowed to those it once enslaved, a victory born not from mercy, but from mastery. Nanny's war changed more than Jamaica. It changed history itself. She proved that empire could bleed, that courage could outlast cannon fire, that a woman of African blood and iron will could outfight the greatest army on earth. Her name became a signal of resistance. Her discipline, her tactics, her code of unity echoed through generations of revolutionaries, from Haiti's fires to Africa's independence movements. She was the blueprint for defiance, the mother of every freedom yet to come. The Maroons remained free, their villages self-governed, their drums still speaking in code. They carried her laws, her songs, her memory like scripture passed from elder to child. Centuries later, Jamaica named her a national hero. Her face appears on the $500 bill, but her worth is measured in pride, not paper. Her story is sung in classrooms, carved in murals, and whispered in the hills, where the mist still moves like her breath. Scholars debate her methods. Historians argue over details, but her power is beyond debate. She is studied in military academies, quoted by leaders who dare to dream of freedom. Her true memorial is not carved in stone. It lives in every heart that refuses to kneel, in every community that rises from ashes, in every struggle that proves the impossible can be done. Nanny was more than a warrior. She was a vision, a voice, a vow that still echoes. No chain forged by empire will ever hold forever. The world still honors conquerors, men who arrived on ships and claimed to discover what others already built. But the true discoverers are those who found freedom in chains, who turned mountains into kingdoms and memory into resistance. Nanny of the Maroons was not a myth. She was a commander, a liberator, and the heartbeat of rebellion. They buried her name, but they could not bury her truth. Because before they wrote history, we built it. Black Antiquity, where Black legends are remembered. So like, subscribe, and share, and together, we'll make sure our stories are never forgotten.